Hello and welcome to the Mystic Cast, where you join me, Jack Stafford, a student of metaphysics, as I talk to a variety of guests to better understand the teachings given by the masters through the Aetherius Society, the new cosmic religion for the Aquarian age, incorporating all yogas, Christian mysticism, theosophy, UFOs, and much, much more. Please note that this is an independent program, not produced or fact-checked by the Aetherius Society. Today, my guest is Lon Art. Hello, Lon.
Hi, Jack. It's so cool to be here.
It's great to have you. Thanks for taking the time to chat.
Absolutely. And your introduction made me smile, actually, with everything that you mentioned, like, the UFOs and the ethereal realms. And awesome.
I got everything in.
Great.
So where to start with you? Because you do this sacred geometry and you also have a book called Modern Merlin.
Correct.
Maybe let's just start with the sacred geometry, as that's really fascinating. The Plato's, how you've taken Plato's sacred geometry, but you go much deeper than that, and you
Yeah. Yeah. For me, it started, I think, back in the 90s. I came across pictures of crop circles, which is kind of in those same realms that you're talking about, right? And I saw those pictures and there was just something inside of me that got so excited. I felt like a child in a candy store, just looking at the pictures. And
they're incredible. No, some of those crop.
oh, they are amazing. I mean, I recognized immediately like the complexity and the intricacy of the designs, right? And I'm an artist and I work on a computer and I know how hard it is to make a design. It looks simple, but just trying to draw. If you just try to draw like four circles that all intersect in the middle, but to do that perfectly is almost that's almost impossible. And a lot of these designs are so complex that to me it was immediately like, oh, that is just beautiful. So
And what's your pitch on them? Where how do you think they were made? Just to take a little side street for a moment.
it's I read a lot of stuff about it, and honestly, personally, I am not even that interested to know in that discussion. I find it very interesting that as a society we got stuck on the why and how it
Mhm.
happened, and because we never got past that discussion, we kind of collectively ignored the whole phenomenon of it happening, and it still happens. Like this should be headline news, right? This should be a picture in the newspaper that shows us this amazing design that just happens overnight in a field. And often these things span like over hundreds of yards, right? They're large. So even if that would be done by like some of the theories was like it was a farmer with a beer bottle in the back of his tractor, right? And he would do it during the night. I would say like amen to this farmer because that is amazing skill. If you could make a design like that with a beer bottle in the back of your tractor, I
Yeah.
mean, almost impossible. I mean, it's almost impossible to make this with a computer, and then you're seeing it on the screen. But I mean, think about it. If this is in a field, you don't have that overview the way you're looking at it now, the pictures that you're showing. This is the eagle eye overview, right? But when you're in the field itself and you're standing in it, you don't see that. So you have no idea how those lines are going.
These are
So
incredibly
anyways,
detailed. Yeah.
incredibly detailed. And so I don't know. I'd like to believe that this is some sort of communication or language that is here for us to bring our awareness and our consciousness maybe into a different part, where we can tap into just the feelings that we get when we look at them.
Because they do look like some of your pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. So I took some of these and I put them in line art and then I started playing.
Mhm.
So a lot of these are at the core of my designs or parts of them.
On
Um,
your website now, it's
yeah, go
uh,
scroll a little bit down because I think you can see it a little bit down, like right there, right? The basis of that was a crop circle, but then I combine it with other.
okay.
Right. So, and a lot of them are that way. I think that one is too, actually.
So you do individual for consultants. You have a call with someone and
Yeah.
you make
So
an
I figured, just like crop circles are kind of like a language that evoke emotion in us, I figured out that I can sit with somebody and tap into their energy and tap into their essence and then create a picture based on sacred geometry of what I feel they would look like if we express it that way. And I call that a soul portrait. Um, yeah,
wow. They're so beautiful. Yeah.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and it's become this whole journey that I take people on. So it's more than just a picture. I describe it because what happens is when I tap into somebody's energy and I create this, um, it's not it's not that I immediately know what they're about. So
Mm.
often the picture comes through me and then it's on my screen and then I start sitting with it and I try to find the story. Like what is the story here? Like why are these colors here? Why am I looking at six? Why is there six circles and not eight? And I know that in the creation process, if I try something, if I would have tried to do to make this five circles, it didn't resonate, so I follow what my inner guidance tells me, where the resonance is. So sitting with it and hearing the story of these images, I write about it. So that one that you're looking at right now, that is my own soul portrait.
Oh, really?
Yes, it's mine and it's called Illumination. So, and why it's called illumination is because I truly feel that that's what I do. I'm an illuminator. I am here in this lifetime to bring into the light that what is hidden or unknown, whether that's a concept or an idea, or whether that's the essence of another person, of another human being.
So these people they meditate on these images. You don't try and explain it rationally, like there are nine circles because of this and because of, it's more an intuitive thing, no?
It is, but I do both. So people
Oh yeah.
get yeah, so people get the design and they can hang it on their wall so they can
Mm,
constantly activate it and
yeah.
guide it
Beautiful.
images. But I give them a whole description as well. I do tell them why there is nine circles. I do tell them why it's blue. I tell them what's happening in the middle. I tell them, and then I give them a guide, like a home guide with all kinds of instructions and suggestions of what to do on a daily basis to keep on evolving yourself and expand on your own soul essence.
So what would be an example of the
Well, for
kind of
instance, I tell people like, don't just keep it on the wall. Take it off the wall and do what you see this woman do. Put
yeah.
it in front of you on the table and look at it
Okay.
because it feels very different if you look at this picture from a horizontal point of view than if you look at it if it's hanging on the wall.
Oh really?
Oh yeah, yeah. And if you just put your hands on it, it's like it's a very different feeling.
Huh.
And the essence of that idea is that my motto is like change your perspective, change your life.
Mm.
You know, and it's such a good reminder of you know making sure that you take different perspectives throughout your day. In your daily life. So we're all used to having pictures on the wall, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, take it off next time. Any picture, take it off and put it in front of you on the table, and then look at it for a little bit and see that what it brings up, how it's different.
And what are these oracle decks? I looked at them as well.
The Oracle decks, let me see how they're laying here. So a lot of these images, both the soul portraits and the images that I just made on concepts, they were all put together in Oracle decks. And I have two out right now, and the third one is coming. The third one is going to be based on the book, and it's going to be called Modern Merlin, the Merlin deck. So these Oracle decks basically have all these pictures in it based on sacred geometry, and they all cover concepts that are fundamental to the way we understand our world, right? And we don't even think about it. We use in our language all these words all the time. We talk about that we want to be healthy, we want to be happy, we want more intimacy, we want abundance. We have all these things that we want, but often we don't even really think about anymore what that entails and how to get there. When we say that we want to be healthy, what does that mean?
Mhm.
Right? Healthy, where is that physical? I mean, by now we know that our physical health has so much to do also with our mental, our spiritual, and our emotional health. So we need to expand these concepts. And that's what I do with this. Oh, you're playing it. How fun. How fun is this, right?
Yeah. So what do I pull it down? Another one?
Just you can pull three.
Ah. So it's like a tarot, your own tarot cards or something like that.
Right. It's a little bit like tarot, but tarot is more tarot is a system that's pretty defined, right? It's usually 78 cards and they all have certain cards in there. There's always the wands and the cups and the aces and I don't even really know, and the swords, right? It's system that is set. Um Oracle decks are a little bit different. Oracle decks you can basically do on any topic in any way. And I mean, my decks have 44 cards because I really like the number 44, but it could be 33 and it could be 55 or it could be 61 or whatever. And in oracles, there is, for me with oracle cards, it's more of an intuitive relationship that you have with the cards. It's like having, I call them friends in the box. You
Okay.
know, they're just giving you feedback the way you would want to get feedback from a friend, something that's supportive and insightful and fun and light. And that's how I use the Oracle decks.
Ah. So sort of like a pendulum or or even like a tarot cards. Yeah. I've
Right.
never used anything like that. No. It's
It's,
I'm
it's,
actually
it's fun. Like, you can just draw one at the beginning of the day. And then, I mean, we can draw one right now.
yeah,
See what
do it.
comes up for our time together right now. Have it here. Uh, to me, it's like an extra nudge that you get to maybe contemplate something, you know? So, um, so I do it very intuitively. Whatever, I stop whenever I feel like, you know what, this one is really want to come out. So I take this one. Forgiveness.
Mm,
Interesting.
yeah.
So that is really interesting to think about because forgiveness is such a big topic of um, I think a lot of us are walking around with feelings of resentment, either and especially right now, right? Especially right now, I think there is so much going on in the world that makes us anxious, that makes us feel steerless, that makes us feel confused, and all of these things. And a lot of people are angry. There's a lot of reactiveness going on and we're angry at each other and we're angry at our leadership and we don't really even know what we're angry at. And oftentimes we get angry at each other for no reason. And sometimes we're just angry at ourselves as well for doing something or not doing something or so I think it's a huge topic right now. Like, if we don't get to a place where we can find compassion for each other and for ourselves and for what's going on, and we can forgive, um, I don't think we're going to get out of this really easily. All of us.
Yeah, that's such a big thing, isn't it? Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And maybe that's coming up right now, because you and I think we're both kind of similarly on the same path of wanting to contribute to uh, a better world, right? And,
Yeah.
and make people aware of the subtle things and the things that are might not be as obvious and like right in your face. And maybe this is just a topic that we can make. Let me see where it is there. That we can just make people more aware of and just sit with. Just spend 5 minutes today at some point. You, me, and I will do the same, and everybody that is listening and like, what does that mean to you? Forgiveness. And is there anybody in your life that you could forgive? And how about yourself? What are you beating yourself up for?
There's that judgment of other people. I was just looking there for it. I had a transmission from the Aetherius Society. I couldn't put my finger on it just now, but one of the masters spoke through Dr. King, and he says that basically the worst thing that we can do is not seeing the good qualities in other people, and essentially that includes forgiveness as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And we're so polarized right now, right? I
Mm.
mean, and polarization, the way we are approaching it right now is very much of the three-dimensional world, right? Three-dimensional world is based in polarities, the differences between dark and light and good and bad and day and night, all of that. And that is always going to be there. But to move into the next phase of where we're going and where we can go with our consciousness, which is in a multidimensional space, in multidimensionality, those polarities are still going to be there. But instead of asking us to choose between them or to judge one better than the other, we could see them more as the yin yang symbol where they're both there, right? Day and night are always both going to be there.
Mm.
Good and bad are always both going to be there. We don't have to try to eradicate one or choose one. And instead, we can start recognizing that there's always a dance between them.
Mm.
So maybe for the world right now, including in my life, there's been so much dividing between people just on the basis of what they believe. I think it's worse now than it's ever been. And I just wish that we could get to a place where everybody just goes like, "Oh, that's so interesting that you believe that. I believe something different. And how can we make it work together? Because we're still gonna all be here, right? Sharing the
Mhm.
same planet and sharing the same spaces."
Yeah, and there's many times that I've had an argument with someone and about a different belief, and then sometime later I've actually come around to their way of seeing it,
Right.
and I believe now what they believe, and so then
Yeah,
it's just it's just time, isn't it?
it is. And it's a willingness to have an open discussion without necessarily an outcome or
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
a judgment, right? Wouldn't it be interesting if you can just share your views, whether I agree or not, and I could share mine, and then we could just say to each other, like, thank you for that share. And,
Mm.
there's always something that I will take in from that, and hopefully you will do the same. I think we lost our ability to even listen. I think
Mhm.
everybody wants to be heard so badly right now.
Mm.
Listening kind of went out the door.
Yeah, it's this big, not well, it's cancel culture as well that
Right.
people don't want to listen. That people find other people's views threatening
Yeah.
and so physically, almost physically damaging to them.
Yeah.
Just another idea, another that's which
Right.
is
And if we really think about it, I think ultimately we all have the same goal. We all just want to be happy,
mm,
right? Whatever that is. We're here. Everybody just wants to be happy. Nobody wants to be suffering and in pain, right? So I'd like to believe that we all are striving for that. And
mm,
maybe if we start looking at like that, then we can see that the other that has a different opinion that is not like mine, but I can maybe see that he's doing that or she's doing that
mm.
because they want the same thing as I do. They just want to be happy. Right?
Friend of mine's having a bit of therapy, and his therapist said to him that he has to develop a mental skin just to let in what he wants to let in, and other things don't come in.
Right.
That barrier helps.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this book, Modern Merlin, that you've written now, what are there aspects of what we've just been talking about that come into that?
Well, I wrote a book to help to shift that paradigm because I just see and believe that we're still collectively very stuck in an old paradigm that is mostly based in 3D. And that's what we're still teaching. That's what we're teaching our children. That's what our educational system is based on. That's what our health system is mostly based on. That's what our political system is based on, right? So now that we're in the midst of this incredible time of transformation and changes, it is time that we start looking at what we believe creates our reality. because science by now actually has caught up with that three-dimensional model, right? I mean, quantum physics has shown us that at the core, things are not form, things are not solid,
Right.
that
Yeah.
nothing is really solid. So that whole idea of a three-dimensional world, and three-dimensional, of course, refers to the width and the length and the depth, which makes form, right? Which makes something solid.
Mm.
And now science is showing us like, well, actually, if you go deep enough and far enough into the really, 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 really small world of, even past the atoms, nothing is solid.
Yeah.
Well, that should change our view on reality, right? It means that reality is actually not what we thought it was. And our role in it is also not what we thought it was. Nobody ever really taught us, at least not me in my education, that what I say and what I believe and what I think actually has a direct effect on what happens around me and what I attract and who shows up, right? So those are incredible, fundamental, different principles that need to be addressed so we can create a new belief system. I mean, look at time, right? Time is what time is bunkers right now, right? It is just flying by.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. It's accelerating.
right. I don't think anybody can deny that. So the question is like, what is happening? Like, what up with that? Like, how come? So I have a chapter about time and how we perceiving it and why are we perceiving it different. So these are all fundamental pieces like time, energy, the difference between the dimensions, like the difference between three-dimensional and multidimensional. All these things are fundamental to how we understand our world and our reality. And that's where it starts, because if we want to change our world, we want to make it a better place,
Mm.
we got to understand that world first, right? Otherwise, how are we going to work with it?
So which teachings have most influenced for you? Because some of the things you're saying about 3D and is it there's that law of one that or is it the law of attraction? Is it channel teachings or what's been most influence in your vocabulary and understanding?
I think yes. I think law of attraction is a big one in the sense that our universe works on the law of magnetics, right? And magnetics is that things are attracted to each other or they're either repulsed, right? They're being pushed away. For me, it's been very fundamental to realize that those inner thoughts that I have, that they actually make a difference in how my life is unfolding.
Mm.
If I look back, because I grew up in Holland, in the Netherlands, and I grew up in a culture and a time where there was very little acknowledgement of the subtle world. Holland is a
Mm.
very down to earth mentality, like, oh no, it's very straight and very just
I lived there for 10 years in Holland.
out. So you know everything about it, right?
Mm.
Right. So I was this very sensitive, intuitive child. I was
Mm.
picking up all these little subtle things that nobody really was aware of. I could always tell what was going on with people and tune into them. And if I tried to ask about this, I always got the answer like, "Oh, you're just imagining it," right? So there was no acknowledgement of all that subtle stuff of the inner world, and that inner world really matters.
Mm.
Um, until like much later in my life, I came across people in Thailand and they started talking about soul and energy and things like that. And I realized like, huh, there is a vocabulary around this. And there is actually a whole world was opening up. And they told me like, you're not weird. You're not out of place. You're just what we call an intuitive or a psychic. And I'm like, ah. And all of a sudden, all that subtle stuff, that I just pushed away and that I thought I was crazy. And all of a sudden it's like, so you mean that there's other people out there that pick up on that same stuff? And so all of a sudden it started falling in place. And and that was a huge, huge shift just to, and I live from that place now. I combine the stuff that comes to me through my intuition with paying attention to the physical world as well and make that into like a symphony. It's supposed to be a symphony.
Yeah. Because you were a graphic designer as well, because often I find the skills that we, the soul plan, whatever, that we learn some materialistic, physical, practical things, and then we later on in life that comes into fruition. So you obviously you had a graphic design background, huh?
Yeah, I did. I did art school in Holland, and I majored in marketing and graphic design. And then I went into the whole advertising industry and loved it. But then I started working for myself and loved that even more. So yeah, it was already going that way. And what was really profound actually is that when I was growing up, I had all these inner conversations between me and my guides probably. I had no idea, but it was always my inner dialogues and I was fantasizing and imagining like that I was living somewhere else. And all those conversations were always happening in English. It was really, really funny.
Really?
Yeah, and I had straight A's in high school for English. It came very natural. And look where I ended up. I ended up in the United States, and my life now is completely in English. I don't even know how to talk about all this in Dutch because I never developed the vocabulary around it. This opened up in English for me.
Did you learn English from the guides before, or did you learn it in school?
We learned it in school, like Holland. We have it mandatory in school. So I had it for 6 years in high school, and then of course, because we're such a small country, most of our television and our movie, our music comes from a lot of it comes from Britain.
Well, I didn't learn much Dutch when I was there, and it was very everyone spoke English to me. So
Right, everybody speaks English, right? Because nobody else speaks Dutch. I mean, nobody else speaks Dutch. It's a very complicated language, so we all learn English. so
that's
so
fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you look back on like how much do we really create our own reality? I mean, if I look at my life, I totally created mine. I was destined, or at least I created it, and I'm living in English now. And I'm living in that language of that graphic design that I'm using now. It became the cornerstone of my work uh, that I'm doing.
Yeah. And so what are the magical powers that because well, maybe you explain it.
All right. When I talk about magic, I define magic as anything that we can clearly experience, but we don't really have a logical explanation for it, right? So if there's something that like, oh wow, that happened, and I have no idea why, we throw it in the box of magic. Like that magically just happened, right? And we're really comfortable with that. We love the idea of magic because magic helps us believe that anything is possible, right? That that the unthinkable can happen, and and we don't know why, but we don't care. We go like, oh, that's going to magically happen. Um, and of course, if we look throughout history and human evolution, there were a lot of things that used to be magic. We had it in the box of magic. And then science came along and they started researching and they came up with like explanations. And then we went like, oh, it's actually not magic. And then we took it out of the box and then we put it as part of our belief system, right? It became part of the way we understand reality. Um, Sunsets, sunrises, there was a time where we had no clue. We just thought that this ball of fire that gave us heat and light would come up only if we would adore it and sacrifice things to it and danced for it. And we would be grateful if it would happen again. And then science caught up and taught us about planets and rotations and cycles and all of that. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's not magic. It's going to happen regardless, right? Um, so there's a lot of things and then there's a lot of things in our lives that we don't even think about that are actually magical, like love, right? I mean, what the heck is love? We've all experienced it, but explain to me what it is and where is it in my body and how can I get it and how can I grow it or cultivate it? You know? So there is much more magic in our lives already than most of us realize. And because we are now realizing that everything is energy and we are energy and our thoughts are energy and our dreams and our intention, everything is energy, we start to realize how all that energy actually works together. It interacts constantly. So my thought, and especially if I have a repetitive thought, that is going to constantly throw out the signal of that thought
Mm.
into the field around me. And that field is going to respond to it.
What the
Not because
things,
it
yeah.
wants to, but just because that's the law of magnetics, of attraction, right?
Mm.
So that field is then going to form itself. It's going to reform the patterns of energy, which kind of brings you back to sacred geometry, because sacred geometry is just a architecture that helps to form patterns, right? It creates harmony out of chaos. So we are actually pretty magical ourselves because we can work in all those subtle layers that we still don't really comprehend. I mean, multidimensionality is still such a unventured realm, right? We're at the threshold of entering there. We're
Not even
getting
in the movies, is it? It's still
right, right. We don't even really know, but we're starting to realize like how much our awareness and our consciousness that we can focus our consciousness in different places. I mean, look at our fascination with movies like The Matrix right now and movies similar to it. I mean, it shows us that we're starting to be conscious of the fact that where we focus our energy and where we focus our attention, our consciousness is what becomes real to us. And
mm,
that doesn't necessarily have to do with the physical world, you know? When you can bring your consciousness there, you can create it. So, so magic is, and even in the movies, we are fascinated with magicians and sorcerers and wizards. And look at Star Wars. You know, it's all about the Force. I mean, what is the Force? The Force is a magical power, right? That Jedi's have, um, and how do they use that power? They use it through their conviction and their consciousness. And they can do things that are magical. They can alter things, they can change things, they can move things. So we have this incredible fascination with magic. We've always had it. And now we're discovering that those magical powers are not just for shamans and priests and wizards and sorcerers. Like we actually all have that already inside of us. It's just a matter of learning how to direct our consciousness.
so with the books, you talk about how to direct consciousness.
Right. Yes. Yeah.
What kind of results can people expect? I hope it's white magic.
um, I mean, our biggest tool how to access all that and cultivate it is to tap into that inner world of subtle energies, right? Into that multidimensional world where those messages are like whispers and it comes through our intuition. So the way in I call it perceptual mode, it's like meditation. It's like, you change your perceiving from just perceiving the external to perceiving the internal as well. Um, the results of all of that, for me, it's a much more, it's an inner peace. It's an inner balance. It's empowering also, it makes me responsible and it makes me accountable And it makes me realize that if I don't like things in my life the way they are, it's up to me.
Mm.
I don't have to look outside and go like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna wait until somebody comes along and does it for me or comes and rescue me," or it's like, I actually can do that by, getting to a state of more inner balance, more inner peace and contributing and, um does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it sounds great.
Good.
It's what
And
we all
you know
need. I
what?
mean, who doesn't want that?
Right, and it's an ongoing journey. Sometimes people ask me like, "So, you have everything that you want?" Like, "No, no, of course not." I mean, some days I'm really good at it. Some days it just, it's
Mm.
all that magic just comes to me really easily, and other days it doesn't. It's a dance. It's dynamics of so many different things, and there's always more to uncover. That I think this road of evolution of consciousness, the evolution of the human being, is absolutely ongoing, and that's the fun of it as well, right? I mean, what else? I mean, if we would be done, then what's the point of being here?
It was interesting going back to what you said about how things have been taken inside and outside of magic and um, the sun. I didn't realize till I learned from the teachings of the Aetherius Society that the sun is a living being. It's the God in the Bible. It's the Brahma in the Hindu scripts. It is the highest being in our concept of manifestation. It's
Mm,
it's an amalgamation of souls, millions and millions of lives further down, further along than us. And
right.
we do this practice with the 12 blessings. One of the things, the ninth blessing is, or the eighth blessing is to send energy to the sun, and then we just in praise of the sun.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's that whole idea again, like if you pray, or if it praying is a form of focusing your awareness,
Mhm.
focusing your attention, right? And where you focus your attention, you direct your energy, and where you direct your energy, you automatically create more of. So praying, regardless of what you are praying to, if you are praying, it is your moment between you and the divine or whatever you're praying to.
Mm.
So your energy is going in that direction. So of course everything it's gonna come back. It's gonna respond to that.
Yeah. Yeah, we pray with the hands like that because the psychic centers in the hands and also send energy through the heart because this mudra, this is a mudra of putting the hands together, how people traditionally pray. It is actually was brought in by the dark forces because it seals energy inside the body.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, it was a we Jesus always prayed with the hands out, and they do it
And it
instantly actually. Yeah.
Right, and it reminds me of when I was a child, I would all and I still have that. Like when I look at people, I can always tell like what's going on. Like it gives me a feeling of where they are emotionally. But often I'm drawn to their body. Like it almost feels like I want to touch them at a certain place. It always feels like my hands want to go out because the energy is drawing me in to either want to give or help them to spread it out. It's an automatic feeling. So when you did that, I'm like, I remember always going like, oh, can I just right touch? It's like hands are the it's almost like our hands are the tools of how we give and receive energy through this physical body, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's prayer and spiritual healing like a Reiki. It's a great
Right.
example. It's the
Yes.
same thing,
Yes.
you imagine a white light coming down and you send it out through you just a channel for the energy, and that's how the healing is done, and then and you pray, you send energy to places for transformation, basically.
Right. Right. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a I don't know. I find it such an interesting time to be on Earth right now. It's a powerful time. It's a challenging time, but just like in any polarization, the bigger the challenge, the bigger the payoff can be as well,
Mm.
right? It's like the bigger the hardship, the higher the joy can be as well. It's there's always a relation to those two. So yes, it is a tumultuous time on earth to say the least. And it just depends on where you want to focus. You can just focus on all the things that you find negative or challenging or hard, or you can focus on all the amazing possibility and potential and things that are sprouting and growing because of it.
Yeah, it's amazing how everything's racing together, that how the darkness and all those and the dark forces are actually helping the forces of light, because we're battling against, you know, corporate takeover of our lives and being locked in our rooms and communicating via Zoom. But at the same time, you've got more time to contemplate, more time to go within. Access to teachings is so there. If you can tune in and you can get guided to websites like yours and books like yours and the Aetherius Society and they're right. They're just one click away.
Right.
So
I mean, the world has opened up more as well, right? We closed down more in our small communities,
mm,
but as a global community, we opened up because all of a sudden everybody had to go online, and we all have learned how to be on Zoom. So everybody knows now how to Zoom. It's become a verb. We can Zoom now. And I think we also learned how to create like real connection and real intimacy and vulnerability on Zoom, where before we would never have considered that. We would think like we have to meet face to face and in person to,
mhm.
facilitate that thought of creating that kind of deep connection. And now it's like, well, we don't have a choice. If we really want to connect, this is it. We're going to have to
Yeah.
figure it out right here. So there's such beauty in it because now all of a sudden, I mean, look at this. I'm in San Diego. You are in Italy, right?
Mhm.
I mean, if we would have never probably met in real life
Mhm.
to have this conversation, and now look at us. We are having this conversation and are sharing it with other people from who knows from where.
Yeah, without even having to develop our telepathic abilities.
Right, right. And it's cool because I believe that the universe or spirit put us on that same path anyways. I don't
Mm.
even because I think you came through a friend, right? Somebody
From the
told you,
King Yoga group, yeah. The
right.
Aetherius Society.
Somebody told you about my work and that's how we chatted. And yeah, so that's amazing how that flows.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful and yeah, you can't eh, spiritual advancement is an education is a type of education, though. You can't divorce the two, and you need disruption. Dr. King said for education, you need to disrupt. If you're going to educate someone, by definition, you have to disturb them. You have to
Right,
you have to change. So it's disrupting.
right. You got to get people out of their comfort level, right? Because if
Yeah.
people are too comfortable, why would they move? Why would
And,
they want to learn?
and I found the hardest people to educate are educated people.
That's
What
so
I've
true.
read recently.
Yep, yep, yep.
Because once my glass is full, I have no space for anything else. And
Especially if you're comfortable with your glasses full, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Mm,
Because when you're comfortable, it's like, yeah, no, I don't need to know anything
mm, mm,
anymore.
mm.
That is so true. That is so true. I think that's why we need to really look at children and hopefully keep our children in a place where they can just be curious and free and flowing and because they're so eager.
So now I'll put in a sales pitch because I do this show to interest guests in the Aetherius Society. So I'm
Okay.
going to so I'm going to see how full your glass is because
Ooh,
yeah,
I love the yeah, no, I am drawn in by the image, of course.
yeah. There's the logo of the Aetherius Society, the Om symbol with this triangle, um which is a very sacred symbol that's just channeled, and it's the 12 blessings channeled by
Right.
Dr. King for the Master Jesus. It's Dr. King.
Interesting. Is he
Just
still alive?
mm, somewhere.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but not on our level of. So I just read a bit from this from the Sun because just as we spoke about, just to give you a little flavor
Right.
of the sorry, that's from the wrong book. It's from the 12 Blessings of Sun. Sorry, I'm getting confused here. It's late for me. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Just read a tiny bit from it. Blessed is the mighty Sun. Blessed is the solar logos, for upon this you and I depend for that vital energy which does take us through valuable experience. Blessed is this one, for it shineth always in complete sacrifice on the behalf of ye and me and all of us who dwell within its house. So it's just an update from Jesus for the Sermon on the Mount. It's got like a cosmic element now. So you bless the galaxy, you bless the supreme lords of karma, you bless the supreme lords of creation. It's just it's cosmic.
Right. And it shows consciousness, right? It shows that there is a consciousness of those parts that are there, that there is a connection with the planets and with the deities and with all of that and all those forces, and um that we are part of that, that we're in interaction with that.
Exactly, because I kind of knew before the theory of Gaia and the Mother Earth is a sacred being, but I didn't really understand the mechanics of soul evolution. That's because you say with the nine freedoms that once you raise Kundalini up to the crown chakra, you go through enlightenment, cosmic consciousness, ascension, become an ascended being, stay behind and serve in the spiritual hierarchy of Earth, or go into interplanetary existence, work your way through all the other classrooms, the other planets, at a different a different frequency of existence,
Right.
and Saturnian existence, then solar existence, and then later you amalgamate with other. You're amalgamating all the time consciousness and eventually form a planet. So to
Oh,
think that the
wow.
Mother Earth is Jesus. Imagine Jesus and the Buddha and Sri Krishna, and imagine all many other masters, many of millions of lives more evolved, all merged together, and you have some idea of what the consciousness of Mother Earth must be like. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing. So when did you get how did you get in all that?
About 2 years ago, yeah, I was, I clicked on a website. No, no white light or guides talking to me. I'm afraid I'm not up to your level, but yeah, it worked for me just on a logical basis that's how, because the Buddhists say you go to nirvana and that's it. The Christians say you kind of go to heaven and that's it,
Right.
and it just doesn't really, it's not really enough for me. So the
Right.
idea that all those people driving the UFOs around are evolved beings on the level of Jesus. It's kind of UFO and reincarnation together. It kind of everything's explained. The mechanics of this system is just really worked for me.
Right. I want to go back to what you just said, how it doesn't work with you, like you hear things and but what you're saying is very much how it works for me as well. It's not that I hear a voice in my head say like, do this. It's just that the intuition could be just like you, to click on something and to pay attention, right? I think it's more about paying attention to where you're being drawn or the things that are popping up. That to me is divine guidance. That is inner guidance. That is guidance from a higher place that guides me through my days and through my life. And it's and our magic comes from um well, for one, believing that that's how things work, but also just following that, you know? Intuition is real. Intuition is valuable. Intuition is not just something like, you're imagining that. I find it fascinating when people imagine something. It's like, oh, that's cool. Where did that came from? Especially when it's very clear, right? So,
That's triggering your higher consciousness and the little
right,
voice in your head, and
right. right.
Okay.
And because how else is something higher, wherever it's from, how else is it going to communicate to you, right? I mean, we think so 3D that we
Mm,
think that we have to wait until somebody knocks on our door. You open the door and somebody stands there and they have a guide, like a literal guide with
mm.
pages and tells you like, well, do this, this is how you're going to find the divine. It doesn't work like that. Unfortunately, it doesn't. And at some point, you're just going to have to take that plunge and just decide that you're going to trust whatever comes up and see what happens. Just follow it for a little bit and see what happens.
That's something I needed to hear. That's a helpful reminder because I, I'm caught up in my day, all the time. I'm pushing forward. And, just for example, when I'm eating, it's quite a simple practice, but, I might get this tiny, tiny little voice say, you're full now. You don't
Right.
need any more food. But, I keep, because the plate's still got the
Right. The plate's not empty, right?
plate's all finished.
Right.
But I'm,
Finish your plate. That's how we grew up, right?
yeah. But just these little things of,
Right.
so if I can't do that, if I don't listen to the voice, even in a perfectly calm situation, how am I going, if I get, it's like a little, there's an earthquake coming or something like, as if more advanced people do, or, I'm deaf, dumb, and blind basically. So I
Or
do
or even the little hunch of that tells you like, go outside and
a little
go
hunch. Yeah. Yeah.
right. Go outside, go take a walk, or go to the coffee shop on the corner because, some of you and maybe you're going to meet somebody there that has an amazing piece of information for you or an insight. It is all that little
Yeah.
subtle stuff that we so easily overlook and we throw it in the box of coincidences,
Mm,
right?
mm.
But coincidences in universal language are actually called synchronicities,
Synchronicities. Yeah.
right? And
Everyday magic.
right, everyday magic, right? Yeah. Um, so it's just up to us to learn how to receive that. And often we gotta get quiet a little bit because like you said, everyday life is complex, it's loud,
Mm.
it's tumultuous, and it's like it's distracting us constantly. So we are running after the external stuff all the time. So I try to tell my clients as well, like, just take even if you take a minute. I do it on Instagram. Actually, Instagram is a really fun place to follow me because I give
Yeah.
every little magical things like little animations, little card drawings. And one of them is the reels these days that you can make. They're only a minute long. You can't be longer than a minute, right?
Mhm.
So I create little animations that are less than a minute, and I'll just give you 1 minute of a meditation. I'll give you a little hint of like, just breathe with me for a couple
Mhm.
of minutes or for a couple of breaths. And I guide people through it just to remind ourselves like we all can find 1 minute to just turn away from all the stuff, even go into the bathroom, close the door, sit down, close your eyes, tune in. Like, what's going on? How's your heart feeling? What's the feeling inside? What's coming up? Or just take a couple of breaths. Just sit there and take a couple of breaths.
Yeah. Some people ask me, like, how do you recognize the higher voice? And not that I've got it right, but it's easier to recognize what's not the voice, like
Right.
what things would your higher self not say? For example, I must go and watch Netflix for 2 hours now, or I must have that bottle of wine, or I must insert here sin, basically. And all those things are those are obviously your conscious mind because
Right.
it's
Or something negative. I always like to point out too, like the divine is not going to tell you anything negative.
yeah,
Just like my cards in the Oracle deck, it's not going to predict anything and it's not going to tell you anything negative. It's not going to tell you that you're doing something wrong, that something bad is going to happen. It's going to give you loving feedback. It's going to give you little nudges of insights and just
there you go.
options. That's how the divine works, right? It's even in the midst
Positivity.
of bad situations, it's going to give you little loving, like, how about this? How about try that? Or maybe just breathe and just calm down your body and your heart and with that, your mind. And when you calm down your mind, there's room for new thoughts.
Wow. So Instagram can be a force for good then. I have to go on there. Is it Lon Art or Lon
It's
Dash Art?
Lon_art.
Okay.
Yes, I believe it can. I'm not a big fan of Facebook. I don't really go on Facebook. It scatters my energy. I think a lot
Mhm.
of people are on there. They love it. I can't really do it. Instagram for me is a good medium because for one, it's very visual, and I'm a visual artist, so it's an easy medium. Also because when you go to somebody's profile, you have all their stuff right in front of you, and you can just click on it. So,
Or
uh,
Pinterest? Do you ever? That's what visual.
Pinterest.
Mhm.
I tried it. I didn't get a lot of I think there's less community feeling to it.
Probably. Yeah. Yeah.
Like with Instagram, at least you have the interaction, you have people, you start building relationship that I think it's a little bit more connected as a community.
Mm.
Um, to come back to what you said, like, so there is some good in that. It kind of goes back to, right, connecting through Zoom versus connecting in person. I think Instagram helps us to connect because if it's not Instagram, then how are we going to find each other? Right.
Yeah. We do have to use the powers for good.
And how am I going to let people know and share what I have to offer? And, how I can even support them on their journey. If it's not on Instagram or Facebook, then, how are people even going to find my website? Right.
Mm.
So,
Yeah. I'm on
yeah.
your Instagram now.
Yep. So it's fun. So you can click, it's less than a minute. That's one of my art pieces.
Look at that.
Yep.
They're huge.
That one is, yeah. So that's a merged piece. So that's a piece that is a combination of a bunch. Yeah, people love this one. So that's what I'm saying, right? Just take a deep
Mhm.
breath and then I talk about how we are all connected and that we have everything already inside of us.
Oh wow.
So I try to offer inspirational things and to help people, to remind them that they are more than their physical bodies and that there is a soul part. So I call myself a soul guide. I will show you the subtle world of the soul, of the subtle energies. Um, my cards do that, and my book will give you the context also and the foundation and a lot of tools as well. So I give you a lot of tools on a daily basis, what you can do. And
Wow. It's really beautiful.
that's a soul portrait also. That's her soul portrait. And that's when I presented it to her. And so hers was called Adventure.
That's
And that's how we need to look at life, right? As an adventure. An adventure implies that you're going to go into the unknown. And most of us are afraid of the unknown. But if we realize that if we are sourced and if we are connected to a higher power and our higher selves, then we don't have to be afraid because there's always that to fall back on.
mm. Very well. This is beautiful.
Yeah. Yep. I try to yeah. And it's fun. It's my little creative space. It's like how creative can I get under a minute and give something that people would like to look at. So
And if people get inspired, then they can, well, they can obviously buy the book, or they can contact you on the website and get their own soul portrait.
right. Yes. Yes. Or they can get the Oracle card deck. So there's many ways to enjoy what I have to offer. And there's many different levels financially and commitment wise. So, an Oracle deck in a book, that's really easy. You just order that and you can just play with it at home. A soul portrait is a little bit more of an investment, but it's also an incredible contribution to your journey on Earth.
Very
So,
smart. That's your marketing training coming in there.
yeah, I guess so. I guess so. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great. I need to work on that. That's yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been wonderful. Thanks so much, Lon.
Yeah. You're so welcome. This has been great.
All right. Well, I'll keep following you on Instagram.
Okay. That sounds great. All right. Thank you, Jack.
All right, take care.
Bye bye.
Bye.